Welcome back to the channel. Thanks very much for joining me. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so I know that you guys like what I'm doing. Yesterday I did an FTP test. It was a 20-minute test. For some motivation, I entered into a Zwift race to do it. I often find it helps with motivation, especially knowing that you are going to suffer for an all-out event. As you can see, this was part of the warm-up. It was a 5-minute warm-up. I know that is not very long. I started off at 100 watts and 100 cadence RPM and slowly increased 20, 30 watts every other minute up until I was at 300, which is around my sweet spot. You can see I've started to go up to 250 now with a minute 45 to the start. I also wanted to test out a 30-second hard start and then continue on at threshold or above threshold. Really important for race starters, or if you're trying to make a breakaway, is that initial surge. So you can see I'm at 280 now. Still pretty easy at 127 heart rate. Guys, I was not worried about this result at all. All I wanted to do was to do 20 minutes at threshold or just above threshold, just to see whereabouts I'm at. And we've got 40 seconds to the start. And here we go. You want to be warmed up for these type of efforts, physically and mentally. You know it's going to hurt. Guys, you can do a ramp test. You can do a 20-minute FTP test. It is up to you. Some people respond to a ramp test better than others. Me personally, I don't respond well to ramp tests. I would rather do a 20k time trial. Here we go. You can see how I started. 600 watts, 500, 560. Really wanted to push this out for 30 seconds. Here we go, down to 363. And now you can see I'm sitting at 360, 363, 340, which is just above my threshold. Still feeling pretty good. Heart rate hasn't risen too far. I really just wanted to see how my body's going to respond. I had a really hard week last week. 650 TSS for the week. Thanks very much for the thumbs up. You can see I'm really trying to hold 350, high 340s. Heart rate is not into the red zone. Obviously, I'm only 3 minutes in. When you're doing an FTP test, and if you decide to do it like this on Zwift, don't worry about what other people are doing. Just ride to your maximum, what your threshold is, or all out for 20 minutes. However you decide to measure yourself, that's up to you and what works for you. What works for one is not going to work for another. I really do prefer to do a 20k time trial or a 20-minute hard effort simulating a race. You can see even up these small bergs, I'm not trying to increase my power too much, trying to keep it steady. I'm pushing it quite hard here, 370s, 380. But again, my heart rate is quite good, so I am quite steady at this pace. I know my maximum heart rate's around about 190, 192. So 150, still quite comfortable for me. I do use Zwift a lot to do my intervals and efforts. I personally use Trainer Road and I've built a plan out. And because of social distancing and the current situation around the world, I'm using this time to work on a few things. So when racing does resume, then I will be a little bit smarter and fitter than what I was before. This is a great time to work on your weaknesses. Now you can see that I have dropped down to 300. I need to be pushing that back up to 340, 350, 250, 200. This period of the FTP test was not a good period. I don't know exactly why I backed off. Maybe a mental lapse. It is very important to be mentally sharp during an FTP test. Still at 300. Now, back to how I train. I've been using Trainer Road and I've built out a plan for the rest of the year. as I go along, I do enter what races I am entering, such as the Redlands Bicycle Classic 2 weeks ago and the upcoming Tour of Gila. Plan Builder automatically updates itself when I do enter those races. And to do my efforts, I do jump on Zwift. Occasionally I will enter races just for that added motivation, and I'll do the intervals inside of the race. It's important not to get caught up in the results or really care that much about how you go. You have to remember the bigger picture, why you're doing those intervals. Of course, if you do enter a race on Zwift to race, then look at your own results. Of course, you're going to look at the results overall, but look at how you're going. So we're back to 370. Heart rate hasn't risen that much, so it's difficult, but it's not hard. Definitely see how I'm trying to be as consistent as possible. When you're looking at your watts, if it does go down by 3, 4, 5 watts, don't then push harder to try and get it back up. Just feel how hard your legs feel how hard it feels at 350 watts or whatever watts you are doing, and then just try and mimic that feel. If you try and get back those 3 or 4 watts, you'll end up doing 5 or 6 watts over what your intended target was. So you see back there, I did 370, 380, and now my heart rate's gone up to almost 160. $160 is sustainable. 160 is usually what I would average in a race. So back down to 330 here, 332. But my heart rate is maintaining at 154. You do find that once your heart rate does go up above a certain point, then it becomes that much harder to be able to control your breathing and to be able to control your heart rate. A tip for when you are time trialing is on your computer for your bike, I only have my cadence, IF, which is the intensity factor, 3-second power, and distance. I don't look at my heart rate. I don't look at my speed, because overall, watts is watts, and watts is what counts. So again, I'm averaging 350. Still quite happy how this effort is going. My legs did feel good. I find during an FTP test or a very hard effort, it is very difficult to maintain focus on more than one thing, and if I do have music on in my earphones, I do tend to rip them out after some time because I need to focus on what I'm doing. Do any of you guys have that same issue, that if you are trying to listen to music during a hard effort or towards the end of the third or fourth interval, you turn the music off or you get rid of the headphones, you just need to concentrate on what you're doing? So my heart rate's quite high here. It has been close to 15 minutes, about 13.5 minute mark. I do expect my heart rate to slowly rise. Again, 163 is still quite maintainable. It's somewhere between uncomfortable and difficult now. Still not what I would classify as hard. Now we're back in the 360s. Heart rate's maintaining 165. This sort of effort, I cannot take a drink. I don't like to. Again, it becomes, to me, I need to focus on what I'm doing. I think I got pretty excited coming over the comm there, pushing 400 watts. Got 8th. It's fairly entertaining. Me getting 8th up a comm. If you know me, climbing is not my thing. You see, I've decoupled down here, so because it is a downhill and virtually I was doing 60 kilometers an hour, I backed off. So I backed off, took a breather. In real life, it's very difficult to time trial at 70 kilometers an hour. I guess if you had a 55.11, 55.10, I think 12 speed, I'd now 10 on the rear. If I'm wrong, let me know below, please. I don't mind being corrected. If there's anything you disagree with what I'm saying, let me know below. I'll try and correct it, and I'll try and do it better for you next time. Ultimately, I'm doing this for you guys. As you can see, I'm still maintaining I was maintaining 330 at 145. I've now cut it down, and so that was the end of the FTP test. This is right at the very end of the race. Now, what I've done here at the end of the race is I thought I would try for another breakaway, so another big 30-second effort and then push on at threshold or just above threshold. This is after 30 odd minutes of fairly hard riding. I wasn't sure how my legs would respond. And I think you'll be able to see how they did respond in just a couple of moments. I'm trying to sit in the middle of the pack. I'm not going to try for, here we go, 700, 600 watts. Now, really trying here to get that separation. Heart rate's quickly rising, 400 watts. Trying to hold high 400s. Tried to hold 600 for 20 seconds, 20, 30 seconds, and then 400 for 3-4 minutes to get that separation with only less than 3K to go. And you can see my legs you can see the power drop off. My legs had completely blown. Tried to get back on. If you know anything about Zwift, once they've dropped you, once they've got a second, 2 seconds, it's in a group, it's incredibly hard to try and get back. You can see my heart rate's pegged at 165, doing now doing 270, 260. So there we have it. I hope you liked that video. It showed what an FTP test looks like, how you can go about it during a Zwift race. Hope you like some of my time trial tips as well. Again, please like this video. Please subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Keep riding.